Welcome to the GreatBase Podcast, another episode. I'm Steve Smith.
Ivan Ozerets.
And we again have Dave Anderson. So fortunate to have Dave Anderson. Welcome, Dave. Welcome, Ivan. What do you have to say? Go ahead, Ivan. What do you have to say?
The only one with hair on this podcast.
Oh, man. Those hair jokes.
Ivan, just wait. I used to have the arrogance of youth, too.
No, Anderson used to give me a hard time about losing hair. But actually, I don't think you'd want to. I think you'd lose chirping. If you were chirping Anderson, it was locker room humor. I'm picking Ivan to lose. Thinking Anderson is a heavyweight. It comes down to ribbing somebody.
Yeah, I can do it.
I actually took on Chevy Chase. I found out in a hurry that, he's in a different league. Young people wouldn't know, but he's a writer, and he's got his mark, Saturday Night Live, SNL. What's that stand for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, let's go. Tennis camps. We've talked about volleys. We've talked about ground strokes. Now we're going to talk about serves and overheads, the pushing motion for volleys, lifting for ground strokes. Serving. Let's start with serving. The term serve comes from servant, when tennis used to be a garden party before 1873 with Sir Walter Clapton Wingfield. But now you have to serve. Let's go with the guy from North Dakota, Dave Anderson.
Yeah, what a big part of the sport it's become. I can tell you, on a personal level, I've tried to make it a much greater priority in finding time for it inside of our programs each day. When you look at statistics, if people have high goals, it's just kind of mind-blowing what has become, for the big servers in the game to think about a Menthik, dismantling Djokovic and what he was able to do with his serve. And I think that we're going to talk tonight about technique and how to do some things to produce efficient serves, especially in camps if you have people for a short period, but some progressions. But I know from a personal level on our day in and day out basis, trying to just devote a lot more time to it. Because it's a shot that should be practiced a lot on people on their own, but for some reason people just tend not to make the time to do it. So we're making sure we're carving out enough time to dedicate to it to really, really try to give people the best chance to serve well.
Yeah, one thought of many is obviously this wasn't the case years ago, where coaches wouldn't even let you take a water break. If you asked for water, it meant you were weak. But get your water break, and once you're done, get on a service line or baseline and just shadow swing your serve. It's a good transition. Just shadow swing your serve. With the serve, Ivan, the tape that he's made for the ITA, Intercollegiate Tennis Association, a lot of it is for the serve. The word picture method from Don Leary, progressions, practicing at home. I've done clinics. I've went to programs and observed programs, been hired as a consultant. And, it's like, okay, we're looking at this group, this clinic, and every kid has palm up. Every kid, logical, intelligent. Why do they put the palm up? Because they see their target straight ahead through the net. And then the question is, well, how many years are they going to play with a palm up serve? Then when they do change, they don't do it through proper instruction. They just, they hear this, well, the pros arch their back and they toss way over their head. And then as they do that, they arch their back and now the racket's on edge and they can hit some spin, but they're not achieving spin and speed. So coming back to the other segments, filming, if you could just film one angle, film from behind. I remember, being in an academy where there was a tournament being held, And as you get into the last day, there's not too many players left, and say that the tournament ending matches are on the Monday, so now the academy kids are all back, and you see early in the morning that there's privates before the 9:00 academy session starts, and just three private lessons in a row. I said all three of those kids have palm up. I said you watch the lessons, and it's not even going to be addressed. Like say for example, pinpoint versus platform, where you bring both feet up on a pin, you bring your feet together. Platform is where you just swing and step. And, some kid comes to you, they're working on pinpoint on their serve and they've got palm up. That's like going out and buying furniture before you put a roof on the house. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. Go ahead, Ivan, what do you make a comment on tennis camp, serves? What ideas, information, insights can we share?
I think starting to teach palm down right away, no matter the age or the experience, if they have palm up, to teach palm down if they have palm up already, from the get-go, right away. And the more experience they have, the more balls they've hit, the more serves they hit with the palm up, the more difficult it's going to be, yes, but they'll very quickly begin to understand how much more advantageous having a palm down swing is. Number one reason is injury prevention. The bigger, stronger you get, it's not good for your shoulder to be able to really hit the ball hard. If you want to hit the ball hard on your serve, the shoulder's not going to like it if you're trying to do that with a palm up swing. So all the progressions that come with it to teach the palm down, starting from just throwing a ball, just not even using the racket. How many players have actually a palm down throw? I remember my own story. I came to see Steve back in Orlando in 22, and I had a palm up serve. I was just trying to copy what I saw the pros, and I was, Federer was my guy. And I remember just being on the wall and just, for a few hours, grab a ball, palm down serve, Vic Braden drill, trying to read the smiley face or the writing on the tennis ball. So you pass between your elbow and your chin this way, and just going over and over and over. But really it comes down to understanding, number one reason, change strokes, injury prevention. And understanding that, well, actually, you want to be here at the hit, a power line, just building upon the knowledge, having building blocks of information, and then just working at it and really committing to it, and understanding that you is better off to train for the future, to train with the goal in mind. And young players, all they want to do is really get the ball in the box. And Steve's brought this up many times, and I think it's a great idea where under 10s, under 12s, young players can just get the ball anywhere in the court when they serve to start a match. Just anywhere in the court. And you just promote palm down. Just, they're huge targets, not the box. They're not so worried about it. And they really try and start from a young age to get a palm down serve. We've had young players come here, and one player in particular I'm thinking of, he has a great palm down serve now. He had a palm up when he first came here. It was, I'd say, 2 years ago, or coming up on 2 years. Now it's great. In the Milan, at a young age, the racket's heavy. They don't have much, young players don't have much muscle to muscle the ball. So it just comes more naturally in my view, from observing these young players and really starting them off early and not being afraid to be like, well, it might be a little bit, too complicated of a swing path. It's like, no, just take it one step at a time. Break it down into smaller pieces, have progressions. So that's my 2 cents on the serve. Just start teaching palm down right away.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think what Ivan said with progressions, I think back to the camp that you ran each year, Steve, at Tyler in the summers, TYX, palm down, palm in, palm out. Having a lot of ways to say the same thing is so important. And then just taking people through it over and over. Everything we've talked about regarding summer camps, I mean, it all, again, when you go back to the beginning, having a solid camp orientation and making sure that especially with things like the serve. I mean, there has to, you could have 6 courts and you could have 5 pretty new coaches. And as long as there's a 6th one there that is a lead coach who understands the system, he can kind of dictate how every ball is hit with a whistle and calling people in and out and going through the drills and progressions and then breaking them back out. But, we talked about grip, swing, body, and now on the serve, there's the 4th component of the toss. And there's a lot of opinions and such on things like the forehand, especially. But on the serve, I think that people would agree the continental grip is the best grip. Where I'm not sure everyone's in agreement on where a true continental grip is, but and then trying to have the debate on the height of the toss, which I think if we backed up 20 years ago, telling people to toss right around their peak and not excessively high was again frowned upon, and it's definitely trending the other way now, where that isn't such a debate anymore. People, again, I think they're heavily influenced by the commentators on TV, and you hear it much more now from some of the commentators about the toss, being located right around where a player can reach to their peak, not too much higher. So I think there's some common ground that everybody can work with there. The part that is confusing, I think, is how we get from getting ready to serve to the production of the loop behind the back and what actually is occurring back there, as tennis teachers anyways. And I think that's where the progressions are key, because even inside of our program here, I see so many kids setting the loop with their hand, not with the way the body should actually be rotating.
Oh, you missed so many comments. To comment off the comments, once again, film first, even if it's just from the angle behind. Welby Van Horn, when he would teach the serve to beginners, he would have them put the racket in what he called the tray position, like you're working at Pizza Hut, and you just toss and tap. But in doing that, he taught a low toss. He taught balance. Their feet weren't all over the place, and they could end up on balance. And then from there, all he had to do is now, okay, we're going to change the grip and change the swing. The toss wasn't all over the place. Body wasn't all over the place. So right away, he had 2 out of the 4 components covered. With Pancho Seguro, great player, Ecuadorian, had so much to do with Jimmy Connors. He had a great drill. You just go right back by the fence, and you got to serve from there. Like say for a kid, we'll get into the overhead. If a kid's hitting an overhead in the green zone, they can put the ball away. If a kid's hitting an overhead, say a young player, 10s and 12s, 14s even, they're hitting an overhead in the yellow zone, that the overhead becomes an approach shot. If they're back in the red zone, the overhead at their level of play becomes a ground stroke. But it's so important to teach people to throw. So you get baseballs, you get footballs. We have gloves and footballs of all 3 different sizes. But can they actually throw? I think of Zverev, that he has lowered his toss. But if people just had the math, if they knew the facts, it's like, just change your toss. And he wouldn't have gone that many years. He moves well. And, I think another thing too that gets away from the serve, but just the net appearances. You got to start young. And, as someone's played a long time with a palm up, they're pulling down and they're displacing force. And you go up to them and you pull the racket out of their hand. I mean, it's like they're in an arm wrestling tournament. Because, when the palm is up, they're going to be tight, especially the older they become. And then you'll even see where they have a second set of problems where they skip backwards. They're not even going forward into the court. Taking people out of the context of the court. So they're not mesmerized by the round yellow ball. We're forever teaching the serve right up by the net. So they're not evaluating. To me, it's just not too swift, too sharp. When you've helped somebody with their serve and then you see them, they're back at the baseline going, that was a good one. That was a bad one. With, going to go out to Honolulu. Yvonne's going with me. We're going to do something for the USPTA, now the RSPA, and then work with some players. And the people helping is really predominantly one woman's been doing all the organization with key people in Honolulu in the tennis community. Is don't want to really just go do a clinic. A clinic just comes and goes. But if you film somebody, like, let's go to work based on that. Yvonne, why don't you explain the drill? Certainly people who look at our content online have seen this, but how we show people how similar the overhead is to the serve.
Yes, two players. Peer teaching also comes into play, where one player's feeding a ball, an overhead and a serve, and then you can also comment and critique it. Peer teaching, you give each other feedback and then switch. So the drill goes like this. You have a basket. You're close to the net with your partner. One partner is tossing the ball and one partner is hitting the ball. You give the hitter one ball just to hold on to. They set up for the overhead. You toss it. You're to the side of the player for safety. You toss it straight up. Try and get the toss low and out to the right for them, for righties. They hit that overhead, and then they go straight into the serve. And from there, you can very easily see after a few shots that the serve is just a long overhead, or vice versa. The overhead is just a short serve. And then you switch and you do 10 and 10, and it's a good drill. You just get into the rhythm of how the overhead and the serve are very similar.
Yes, self-fed overheads. Just have someone go up, put the racket in the salute position. We talk about Andy Roddick telling people how he discovered how to hit a serve. He ended up with an abbreviated motion, but we have the film where he had regress palm up. What's regress palm up? When someone goes up high, and now when the shoulder goes forward, the opposite equal reaction, the racket goes backwards. Dave mentioned earlier, we go back to that, how you formulate the serve. You use the phrase, Dave, set the hand. I can remember being in Braden's office. Vic was on the phone with Gene Austin. I remember one time where Gene was in the office, but another time on the phone. But Tracy had just done so well. She was already big time, and Vic knew everybody because he helped run pro tennis. And Gene was asking what Vic thought of Roy Emerson being Tracy's coach. And Vic said, "Oh, Roy's a great guy." Da 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 da. And then afterwards, when Vic was just talking to me, he said, "Roy won't be able to fix her serve." But then what Vic said was so big. He said, "When I taught Tracy, I didn't understand the serve." And if you watch Tracy Austin, she would set her hand. Martina Hingis had that type of problem on her serve. Both such great players. But again, when the shoulder goes forward first in a throwing motion, if the palm is down, that's where the lower arm comes in at a 90-degree angle. And then that's where it begins. Vic used to say so many great things where if a cowboy is on the horse and they've got the lasso going, if the palm goes up, they'll lasso their own horse. Because once the palm goes up, all the energy goes down. And, but I think people have to be filmed first, because if you just go out, you're talking to a group of kids, like how many of them are extroverted versus introverted? How many had too much sugar on their sugar cereal? And it's like, we have to be able to show them. And, you have a palm up serve. And then, I would say at a lot of places that's not even mentioned. But that's one of the key problems. But the serve and overhead, the overhead is abbreviated because of the position of the ball falling. Of all the shots, you have to hit up the most on the overhead. And that's the problem, is when people are hitting serves, they see their target straight ahead and through the net, and they think they can hit straight ahead and down. But no, I think today in tennis, especially with the rackets, Yeah, it's like so many players. It's for juniors, the key shot really is who hits short, but in pro tennis, for the most part, is getting that way more and more in the women's. The key shot is the serve. Look at Sabalenka. The way she starts off a point, weapon number one. What about for camp formats? What comes to your mind, Dave? You think it's serve and overhead.
I think with serve, I try to have the kids here develop routines and to follow those routines, when there's not a pro there, to get some ownership time. And I think back to when we were fortunate here to have Braden come in. I think he was here for maybe it was for the Rolex ITA, the indoors that we held here. But he did a clinic while he was here. And I remember him, talking to the group of kids we had, and he was just saying he thinks that no player can really go wrong serving from their knees each day. Just getting a towel, putting it down, and serving from the knees and stabilizing, kind of like Welby did, stabilizing the body position and such. So I think with camps, if they ran, like we talked about, stations, and you had specific drills that can kind of help mold this, because some of the people, it's a big ask to get a lot of people to try to change a palm up or to a palm down in a group setting with limited experience. And that some drills can help mold it for sure, and at least help form some of the things. And serving off the knees is a great one. I call it walking the plank, just where, either walking through or running through, hitting straight ahead, hit shadow hit, where they try to keep the racket path moving continuously. Elvis, doing the Elvis drill. And so I kind of use these routines with even kids that are full-time in our academy, and just, hey, do 5 minutes of each, 50 balls of each day. And I think that camps can go a long way by developing a few key drills like that, and follow the lead of the head counselor, and that might know the information a little bit better, and go from there.
Coming back to routines, I tell people routines equal rules. Today I was in the spa, which is a fancy name for the gym up here, indoor, outdoor pool, but just the weight room. It was in the room with the father and son, and father said, well, they came to see me 9 years ago, and they've been coming to see me, periodically since. I think it might be 8, but it's a long time. Not to debate that, but so I asked the young kid, I said, have you put up mirrors? Are you shadow swinging in front of mirrors? Because we take kids to the spa. And if I don't tell them, they'll go without a racket. So they're there without a racket. I said, well, no, you can go shadow swing in front of that mirror. Just let your palm be your racket. Palm guidance, knuckle guidance. That's a great thought, to get down on your knees. You stabilize yourself. Most people, when they're serving, it's like they're on skates. They're not stabilized at the court, especially when, if you are chasing your toss. For the first serve, obviously you're going to increase the upward angle in the second serve. But for the first serve, say a righty out at 1 o'clock, but you start tossing at 12 o'clock, the racket slows down. The racket changes direction. Anytime it changes direction, it slows down. But with Vic, I think of Brad Parks, so much to do with the popularity of wheelchair tennis. He was taught by Vic. When someone's serving with a wheelchair, they put their chair, if they have palm up, they have the chair straight ahead, just like an able-bodied player. So the physically challenged player, the chair, if they have a really good serve, they put the chair at a 45-degree angle. So then what they do is they toss the ball, and then they put their left arm against the wheel so the wheel can't spin. So they stop that left side. So then action, reaction. So then the racket can go out to the right. The tough thing about the serve is you're blind to your target on all shots. So on your serve and your overhead, you're blind to your target. But the other basic shots, you're swinging towards your target. Serves and overheads, like a righty, that edge, you're swinging away from your target. It's difficult for people to conceptualize that. But I think missionary zeal that if you're not teaching, you're not getting people to practice at home, good luck. Now granted, some people are homeschooling now and they're practicing twice a day and they're going to a program like you have, Dave. But even then, it doesn't take much. Okay, I've got this list in a 1 minute management and I got 10 things, say 10 technical things. Well, just commit. I've got to do 3 of them every day, or I got to rotate them. Maybe make it 12 and do 3 every 4 days, and it's just cycle it through. You've got to do it. And people don't. People don't go through the rehearsal. Look at a basketball player at the foul line. They're bouncing the ball. They're visualizing. They're going through routine to make that shot. It's a standstill shot. But tennis players don't understand the similarities between the foul shot and basketball and the serve in tennis. Point starter versus point ender. What do you think, Ivan?
At low level, the serve's a point starter. The key shot, and then you rally to lower levels. We say short ball, whereas the key shot in a higher level would be the serve. It's pretty much both a point starter and a point ender. There's some serves flying at 140, some very rarely 150 now, and it's a different ball game now. Players tend to stand further back, and players still don't want to come in. So that's always confusing to me. One thing to add is you had mentioned and asked camps, serving and developing the serve within camps. What I found to be quite an engaging and educational drill is you have the players, let's say 5, 6, stand in a line. They're all facing in one direction behind each other. And we actually did it out here this morning. The first person in line, you teach them all the word picture method and the serve, adapted from Don Leary's word picture method. And we gave for every letter, we pretty much have a picture for the serve. And the first person in line goes through it. Okay, bathroom scale 1, handcuff, skateboard, and you just go through the whole thing. And as the first player says a word picture method part of the swing of the serve, everyone else repeats it. And you go through the line, you do it over and over until 5 minutes later, everybody knows all the parts of the serve, all the checkpoints of the serve. And very quickly, you can get a large group of people having very elegant, beautiful serve motions.
Yeah, we've done that many times with traveling clinics. It doesn't take long to have people have really a beautiful serve. Just the motion itself, and there's no ball. Can't miss your shadow swinging. But taking the role of the dummy, Braden used to do that. Say, okay, I'm going to say it, you're going to repeat it. I'm going to say it, you're going to repeat it. But then that's really how the brain works, is you really have to repeat. Storytelling, Austin Krajicek, a very good tennis player. He has a great bio. Junior tennis, he wins Kalamazoo. He wins a national championship. College tennis, many times All-American, won the NCAA doubles. In pros, he was top 100. He was number 1 in doubles, Davis Cupper, Olympian. So I'm at Kalamazoo, and he's with Steve Denton. And, Dave, Steve Denton well. So Denton had hired me to help him with teaching when he came off the tour. 2 in the world in doubles, 11 in singles. But Austin was fast-tracked. He was good enough to go to, so he's January of his last year in high school, he's playing in the A&M lineup. So that summer he's at Kalamazoo, and he ends up winning it. The finals is 5 sets, and Denton tells him, don't try to hit 1 ace. You're not good enough. Yeah, I was very fortunate, honored that I went to the U.S. Open with his father, and but they hit spots, high percentage of serves. But I think that's one thing too, is that people are just trying to hit the ball so hard. Today we had a higher level player playing a lower level player, and we do the drill all the time. She got it done in 79 shots, wanted to get done in 60 shots. Serve, volley, or serve, volley, overhead. 3 shots, put it away. 12 points per service game. 3 service games, 36. Return, just take a return and come in. Line that racket face up like a volley, moving forward, add the follow through, then boom, boom, 2 shots, it's over. 8 times 3, 24, you get 30, 36, 24, you get 60 shots. Creative set. But I think that's another thing too, where a lot of people think, well, I'm too good to play against this player. Play in gears. Can you beat this player? Serve and volley and just playing 50%, hitting half speed. And even then, your toss is over your head. Get your toss out to the right. Crossover steps on your overhead. Turn your upper body. Coil. It's amazing on an overhead. Let's talk about overheads for a minute. How people shuffle back. What they do is they first go back with their eyes. The lob is further away, like an airplane floating off in the distance. So they go back slowly. Instead of the Bradenism, you're up to net. You're saying to yourself, driver lob. And you're reading the racket face. You analyze to anticipate, and you go. So you get further back. When you use crossover steps, half the steps to cover twice the distance, but you're getting body rotation. But again, just like the serve, people are trying to hit down on overheads. And then, then interesting, you don't lose a bad habit. You have to override it with a new habit. Like, how many reps did you have, whether it's a palm up serve or palm up overhead? David, to you.
Well, yeah, habit. First on that, I mean, people don't. You see somebody that wants to get their body fit, and they didn't get there into that state they're in overnight, and it doesn't reverse overnight. And it's a lot of hard work. With overheads, we're seeing even in the pro game really now, fewer and fewer people that really love hitting overheads, especially on the singles court, just based on instinct and repetition, even if their technique is not really that flawed, but they just haven't had the reps. And, it's really, really trickled down into collegiate and junior tennis, because the years ago that they radically reduced doubles in both junior and college tennis, it's had a really adverse effect on it. But yeah, I think people don't react. They just want to confirm where the ball is. I always tell people that the lob's not your jogging partner. You're racing it, and I'd rather you get behind it too much than not enough. And but I think that there's so many things attached to why the overhead has just become, it's becoming a lost art in junior tennis. I mean, a guy like Dave Sievertson, who we interviewed a few weeks back, I mean, he would tear a lot of people up still, because the guy can put an offensive underspin lob on a dime, 6 inches off the player's racket on the backhand side every time if he wants. And he'd have a heyday with anybody coming forward on him until they really, really get competent. But you need reps. It's not a shot we see practiced enough, even out on the tour. I think that people forget about that shot. It's easy to forget about until it comes back and reminds you that it needs some attention.
Well, certainly the overhead is a point in these shots. Carlos Goffey was on our podcast, and he said a young John McEnroe, he was making him hit overhead after overhead, and McEnroe, 14 years old, I guess the story goes, said, "This is a dumb drill." And Carlos, easygoing guy, said, "Why?" He goes, "You never hit 3 overheads in a point. If you're hitting, you hit 2. You're not hitting 3. Fair enough. But I always tell kids 10 and 10. You feed me 10, I'll feed you 10, hit 100 overheads every day. So that ball goes up and you're just saying, oh, yes, I love overheads. I'm always teasing Ivan. Why don't you give us a commercial? What's the name of your university?
University of California, San Diego.
I'm always teasing. I said, well, Ivan went to the worst university in the world. And the kids go, did he really? No, I'm just teasing. But tell me why the people have palm-up serves like pickleball.
Why do people that have palm-up serves like pickleball?
I like these questions for the kid who went to school in San Diego. Well, you might have been at the beach too much. What do you got?
There's no serve.
There you go. All right. He got it. I tell the kids from Utah, they don't have street smarts because there's no streets in Utah. But with 72 serves, Stan Smith, the player, Stan Smith, won Wimbledon, U.S. Open. Used to take the bus to take lessons from Jim Verdick. I've heard him give this presentation many times. 3 spots, plain singles, 3 spots on the baseline. Just moving over basically a racket length each time. You have to be between the center mark and the single sideline, or it's illegal. So 3 serves, spin, top spin, slice, and flat, and then 4 targets. So you multiply 3 times 3 times 4 is 36. Deuce court, ad court's 36. So you have 72 serves to go out and practice. I do think that many times when kids are practicing at a camp, it's an aftermath. They're doing it towards the end, and they're chit-chatting with the person next to them. I was told that Karlovic many times, a great server from years ago, that he would practice for an hour and maximum hit between 12 and 15 serves. They're just really taking his time. I'd say that unfortunately a lot of times kids they're just serving. They're not really working on anything. It becomes almost social hour when they're serving. I like Vandermeer's drill, Mr. Nobody. You get one serve, go play a set. I like to have kids try to serve with their opposite hand. If you're really learning at a tennis camp, granted, you may not have a very good serve with your opposite hand, but you should be able to go through the movement. And then you feel how awkward it is, how challenging it is, the degree of difficulty. Peer teaching, once again, teaching's information transfer. I think to touch upon the 3 lies of the serve, on the slice serve, if it was a clock face, as a righty, you're going to hit it 3 o'clock. And you come around the ball. The ball's not on your strings long enough for you to do that. But that's the feeling. Like topspin, you come over the ball. For flat, you go straight through it. But to go out and practice the different serves, just like all the strokes, I think about slowing down, self-evaluating. Can you hit serves on balance? I like how Vandermeer used to take 5 or 6 balls and you'd make a row of balls from the net back. And he would just do that as an art form just to get people to slow down. Say there's 6 on the court, you get 6 balls, 6 lines of balls spread out. People shadow swing very slowly together. Then they have to hit one and then go to the next one. Instead of like just banging serves and seeing, well, how hard did I hit that serve? Go ahead, Dave. Tennis camp, serve overhead.
Yeah, that drill you just mentioned with Vandermeer, I just had a flashback to that. I haven't used that drill in a while, but I love that drill. And if they didn't get it over, they had to quickly get a replacement ball and get back into that area and keep going until they got it over. But that did really slow people down and got them on point with that very well. But no, I think I with all of the strokes that we've talked about in regard to running them at camps, I think it's got to be progression based, and there's got to be film used, and there has to be continuity between the group of pros that are are trying to get it all done. And that's where I think inevitably there's going to be a lead pro getting it coordinated in a particular area, and that person's really got to be accountable for making sure that everything is done well. And at the end of the camp, I know when I worked at Nukes back in that summer internship, we had to fill out evaluation for every kid that was in our dorm. I remember having 10, 12 kids, and we had to do a pretty comprehensive written evaluation that went home with the child to their parents, but I think that could work on both ends. I think there could be a quiz at the end of the camp, see what the kids learned, and then an evaluation that really in this day and time could be done in a video presentation that's sent off to parents. I think that, we have so many negatives to say about the cell phones and what they've done, but I think to not use them to our advantage to help learning in those kind of ways, and have kids make an album, on their iPhone with the photos and videos that really can help at a glance just recall certain things on their strokes.
Coming back to Vandermeer, you refer to children not to their face, but you're in the meeting room afterwards. He goes, those little buggers. He'd use trickery. But when he'd line the balls up, and if everybody in the group, all six, didn't do it the right way, all six had to do it again and do it again. So that little bit of peer pressure. I know when you get into playing games at a camp, we've done this before. Okay, you're playing doubles. You shadow swing your serve, and then you serve underneath. You serve underhand. No, we're not going to, you can't play. For 10 years, I was in charge of a junior college women's team. I was communicating the other day with Chad Burial, who ran the team for 5 years. And I believe the last 5 years, it was 4 years the team was in the finals. But there were certain rules. You couldn't play one up, one back. You couldn't play if you had palm up serve. Because you're not playing. If you have palm up, you're not playing. Welby Van Horn had a way to say it. He goes, well, if you have a championship grip or you have the beginner's grip. Right away, kids, they don't want to have the beginner's grip. I want the championship grip. But having kids play, they're playing doubles. Say, no, yeah, you can play doubles, but you have to serve underhand. We're not going to let you serve overhand. We'll let you play doubles, but you have to serve underhand because we're not going to let you instruction, destruction. We're not going to work with you on the serve and then put you out there to play. And it just doesn't make any sense. We spent all this time working on the serve, and you're going to go out because the old's better than the new. In other words, you work with someone, they're going to have to put some time in before they can conquer going from palm up to palm down. I don't have this digitally, but I certainly have it in our library. I think it's like 25 ways to change someone from palm up to palm down. When a kid has palm up, it's like they're swimming like a dog. Dogs aren't very good swimmers. But, if they're doing the Michael Phelps where they're, doing the crawl, what do you call it? Freestyle. Having a high toss makes it very difficult. If you have a low toss, wrong side, right side, bringing the racket behind your back. I mean, there's you both mentioned progressions. There's so many ways to show people how to do it. Going home and doing it the right way. Let's see if Yvonne nails this. Tell us, in our program, if you're practicing the serve to the nth degree, how are you doing it? You've heard me playing that a few times.
Yes. You would have a poster of the word picture method. You have a tripod, a camera. You have a practice log. You have a string from a ceiling with a piece of tape at the end to the height of your outstretched arm and racket. And you practice your serve twice a day. Film it, record it, log it. Did I miss any, Coach?
That's it. So then I ask kids, yes or no. Look me in the eye. Kids generally don't lie. Look me in the eye, yes or no. So then the line, well, I spent my life saying the right things to the wrong people. And then 1 minute, slowly. So you have the mirrors, string hanging from the ceiling, little piece of tape on the string to your outstretched arm and racket, tripod camera, and you film yourself doing it. And that's how you get really good. You mentioned in a previous podcast, the late Kobe Bryant, he would have done it. You just do what you're told to do. But I do think in a camp, there that how you begin the camp and how you end the camp. Okay, we're gonna have some fun in between. Okay, the strokes will break down some, but just like in a presentation, okay, people remember the beginning and the end, but do they remember the body? Do they remember the middle? And I do think with tennis camps, you should have a presentation to the parents at the end of the camp. And once again, missionary zeal on how to practice. And really try to educate the consumer. Product knowledge, if there is a product, that means that you can produce that product. And that would be a very efficient, effortless serve. With, again, interrelating the two, they go hand in hand. So many kids, their game is going to be based on their weaknesses. And if they don't trust their overhead, they're not going to the net. They're not going in. And also, too, how the game is played. Little kids playing with the transition balls, foam balls. They're just begin with Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey. Begin with the end in mind. You have to learn how to do this properly. You want to be able to play. This is another way to say it. You want to be able to play big kid tennis. With this serve, you're going to get stuck in the mud. You're going to just be able to play little kid tennis. What else? Most improved award at the camp. You could divide the camp. Okay, the palm uppers. You're over here. You're over there. I remember working at the Roddick Tennis Academy. Said, okay, we have 3 courts, and one we're going to go to the carnival. The one in the middle we're going to call the factory, and then the first one we're going to call that jail. Well, I'd rather be at the factory than be in jail, because at least you're only going to put in an 8-hour shift. But then to go have some fun. But I do think that Peter Burwash, the personality of the pro, you just have to have missionary zeal, and you got to pump people up. Hey, you've got to do this. It's going to be great. And just because, to do something over and over again, it's like, I'm bored. And then we have to hit them. Well, if you're bored, you're boring. To be bored, to underestimate the capacity of the learner, or to insult your own intelligence. Poor reflection upon your family. But people want to play. But I think so many lines. If you keep doing this, you're really getting better at getting worse. And that's where there has to be communication to the parents. I tell parents all the time, if a kid says, I didn't like practice, that means it probably was a really good practice. I think that was so much fun. Let's wrap it up on serves and overheads. Let's go around the horn. Let's start with the young guy. What do you got, young guy?
I'd say with the serve especially, you really got to start and end with injury prevention. You can just hurt yourself so easily on the serve. Maybe not so when you're younger, but if you form bad habits, inefficient swing path, and you keep playing that way and you get bigger, stronger, eventually you're just going to break down. Injury prevention is huge. I remember helping this one girl out, shoulder problems. And I said, well, let me see you serve. She had palm up, and okay, here's this grip. Okay, let's look at the grip, the swing, the body. Here's the toss. So, okay, you're tossing over your head. This is the resulting swing path. This has to be because of it. Your shoulder's going to get pinched. Does this hurt if you just put your racket where you usually contact the ball? Yes. Okay. So we did just some basic progression drills. Okay, here's the ball, here's the toss, here's the swing path. Then we did the drill where she runs forward with 3 balls and serves on the run. And I fed her quick serves. And, by the end of an hour or so, she was hitting her serve pretty much the same in terms of pace, but she was tossing low and out to the right, out in front of her. I said, okay, does your serve hurt? Does your shoulder hurt when you serve like this? And she says, no, it doesn't. I'm like, well, there you go again. There you go. And, I hope she stuck with it. But when I checked up on her later on down the line, I don't think she did. But it's really understanding that, you got to be your own coach. Understanding the information is one thing, but really knowing it to be able to teach somebody else, that's really knowing it. And that's what a lot of players, when they come visit, let's say up here to Wintergreen with us, that's what we really promote. Peer teaching doubles the learning. If you're a 16-year-old and someone younger than you, a 14-year-old or even slightly older, let's say an 18-year-old comes up to you and tells you, hey, so I used to have a palm up serve. This is how I fixed it. You have a palm down serve. You should try this as well. Maybe does your shoulder hurt? Mine did. And so that communication between peers is very powerful. But really, injury prevention. Just understanding that if you want to play this game, this sport of a lifetime, you really have to develop a great base, not just for every stroke, but for the serve as well.
Oh, that's good. Coming back to their goals, all these segments beyond junior tennis, if they want to play competitive tennis, granted, you can always play competitive tennis. There's all sorts of different tournaments all through the different age groups. Diagnostically, there's a flaw, there's a cause, and there's a cure. Okay, what's the flaw? What's the cause? What's the cure? Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think tennis camps would do well to invest in a lot of little kids' rackets, or even maybe purchase pickleball paddles for that particular reason. And when you have the racket head awareness, when your hand's a little closer to it, I mean, you can obviously just choke up on a racket too, but when you hold little kid rackets and take people through progressions on the serve, it seems to click easier for many people. They just have that greater awareness being closer to the head of the racket. Baseball, when I was a little kid, I remember I had a great coach, and he just always said, when you have 2 strikes on you, move up a few inches on the bat, make sure you make contact. And so I think those are great tools to use to invest in for people running camps. I think that individuals could have an extra one around their house, in addition to having the socks weighted with tennis balls in it or golf balls. I like to use because it's a little heavier. Just having some clever resources around teaching aids to help combine the kinesthetic side with the visual side, and then the word picture and the auditory, and just mixing everything together to try to get it to work for the campers around. It's a key shot. I mean, if we're trying to teach it to people that are going to just enjoy it, kind of on a recreational level, it's still the same mechanics as somebody who wants to go on and play big time tennis. So, if you get it right, no matter what level you get to, it's really going to pay dividends.
You mentioned Little League Baseball. I remember finding out the hard way that you swing on a 3-2 pitch. Like, okay, they're gonna throw a strike because they don't want to walk you, but just didn't know that. It's amazing how I like the line from the book Moneyball. I've been playing this. It's amazing. You play a sport for your whole life and you know so little about it. You mentioned light rackets. Badminton rackets are great. Your grandsons, ping pong paddles and foam balls. To just go out and work on the serve, and then put the racket, the ping pong paddle on your top of your head, your shoulder, twisting action. It's amazing. I've said it over and over again. It's amazing to me how many players that are playing, respectable tennis at the college level, and they don't have a throwing motion. I mean, they just they could serve, but they're not going to really max out on their serve. I think with flaws, too high a toss. Yvonne, give us a corrective measure for too high a toss. A corrective measure comes from Vandermeer in our school of thought, our homework, that you're given a task that makes you change the flaw without even thinking about it. What do you do if someone has too high a toss?
My first thought is just more drills, mainly without the racket in general, to start off with, where you just toss to you have the ball in the tossing hand, toss low not to the right, and you just catch with your own hand, and then you can toss and hit. So you have two balls, toss one, hit with the other, and then toss and throw, where you throw the ball and try and make them collide. You can also grab your racket, or before that, even go up to a wall or a curtain and just toss to the height of your outstretched arm and racket. Mark an X towards low and out to the right. If you're a righty, just toss towards that X, or go outside, find a leaf off a tree that's just to the height of your reach.
Roscoe Tanner's father telling him to do that.
Yeah. Just swing at that leaf, tossing low. Those are the first things that come to my mind.
Yeah, I like the one serves on the run going forward.
Yeah.
Serving with a sock. The old baseball trick, if you put 3 balls in a sock, baseball weighs almost 6 ounces, tennis ball, 2 ounces, so pretty equivalent. Then once you put the palm up, the balls will hit you in the back of the head, but actually serving with a sock. Dave, I think you can almost guess what people have been taught. It's pretty easy to guess when someone's been taught down together, up together. Always tease the men, the men weren't taking lessons, but the ladies, if they put their hands way, way up in the air, that means they're a good student and they were taught down together, up together. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
No. I mean, I think whether it's an adult or a young player that comes through, you can see the history in the player. And, it's funny to talk to people for the first time and, you haven't really seen them play, but you're doing video on them. And you start rattling off tendencies of their past, and they feel like you have some sort of mystical power. But it's really quite easy to see the history of the player in what they're doing with their racket and their body and what they're doing on tennis court. There's usually scar tissue, even if they're headed the right way, from their past and some things maybe that, and there's a lot that they've been told that is good too in many cases, but you can always see the flaws that they've been taught.
With Chris Lewitt, he's written a second book on Spanish tennis, like Spanish Tennis 2.0. It's flattering. He has a 45-minute, whether it's a video or a podcast, whatever it's called, analyzing the GreatBase. Should have named it Solid Fundamentals. Like, who can argue with having a great base? But so someone sent me a tape. It's like an hour and 20 minutes, and I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'll watch 3 5-minute segments." I mean, there's so much content out there, and in all fairness to anyone, it's like, no, you got to watch it from beginning to end. So I'm not really being critical, but he had a very good point where you can't toss the ball and catch it. Toss it up, comes right back in your hand. With the serve, you make the letter Y, you make the letter W. I mean, you're a referee saying touchdown. With the toss, you're taking your ice cream cone to the ceiling. You're putting the champagne glass up on the top shelf. I always tell people I've learned more on how not to teach tennis than teach tennis, but we put the basket behind people when we teach the serve because of safety. I remember a guy by the name of Scott Marshall, looked just like Brett Hall. His dad, he went to tennis tech. He was beer drinking buddies with Jim Rogers. So his dad comes in, old Aussie coach, and he said to me, he's putting me on the spot. He said, "You're teaching a private lesson. Where you put the ball basket?" I said, "Oh, you always put it in front because people are lazy, and you want them to put the ball basket in front, so they're going to toss forward." And I remember him just saying, "You're okay, kid. You're okay. You pass. You could teach tennis teachers." But No, you can't do that when you're playing, or excuse me, when you're teaching a group of kids with, the baskets behind them. Kids today, for the most part, the ones that are taking tennis lessons are way too expensive. They're typically in America, they're not riding a bus. The chain puller syndrome, where you want the bus driver to stop the bus and you pull the chain and the elbow's going down. The elbow should only go up one time. It's like it's on a post and you just turn and it should go up. But, if there's juniors listening to this podcast, TIP, total intense practice. We always say pearl of wisdom, golden nugget. So, okay, my elbow's only going to go up once and I'm going to work on that. But, you have to put thought into it. Paul Myers, the British writer, idea, thought, action, results. Okay, this is, you want to be a server? Okay, others have put so much thought into the serve, and we've gathered lots of thoughts. And here you go. Here are these drills, put them into action, and then you get a result. I don't think people really understand how myelin works either. Is that, okay, I know how to hit the serve now. But you have to build the myelin, be a myelin farmer, so then the speed and smoothness of movement. I think at the end of the day, the camp, or even like people who are out on the tour, go out and cleanse your strokes. Anytime people have been playing, it's okay, you've been in a playing situation. Before we break and go to the cafeteria, we're going to have a stroke review. And whether that's what we say 48 seconds, 42 seconds if you just have one volley on the backhand side, but if you have two volleys, is this 8 basic shots times 6 seconds? Everybody can go through that 48-second drill. And then have people could do that with their opposite hand. Some show and tell. Dave, why don't you wrap it up? Serves for tennis camp, serves and overheads.
Yeah, I think it, like you said, or like we all have said, it's such a critical shot. It's going to take a lot of love to be able to get most people to serve effectively, to be able to serve efficiently, to be able to hit the ball to where they can maximize speed, power, spin, and not have injury. It's going to take a well-organized tennis court to be able to do it on. It's going to take purpose. It's going to take a lot of practice outside, a lot of ownership from the individual, but it's going to be worth it. And, I think that, as coaches, teachers, we have to get creative. I mean, kids, like you said, we're definitely in a little bit of a microwave society and people want to play, but hey, you can play a set and, you could shadow your serve and the returner could feed the ball in to stimulate the return, deep neutral, and play. And there's lots of ways around it to be able to still learn and enjoy the sport. One of my daughters, I remember telling her, hey, hit the first serve with the right grip and the right movement. And then I don't care if you hit the next one over with the pizza box. If you want to learn the sport and play the sport, because nothing's worse for a kid than going out and double faulting an entire match away. And I've seen that happen. I've made that mistake with players. So, we don't want to turn them away from the sport in that regard either. But there's definitely a tipping point. But there's plenty of ways around it to grow the game, grow the sport, and enjoy it.
I'm glad you said it for club players. Is that even on green light point? Green light point, when you're up 40 love, okay, try your new serve. When you're teaching someone to serve with a continental grip, when they bounce the ball down, have them bounce the ball with their racket, so they're just getting used to that. And certainly there's progressions within that. But you got to get the ball in the box. You don't want to double fault. Serve with a pizza box story. Steve Ulrich, Indiana, 7 college degrees, same age as me. He went through this program that you and I were part of, training tennis teachers. And we used to have drill of the day. It's your turn to do drill of the day. And how he paid for his way when he was studying tennis with us, he delivered pizza. And I remember he did pizza box drills. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Ulrich. He was the best speaker. He broke every rule. Pulled the hat way down over his head. He, would make the podium sway back and forth. He wouldn't look up at the audience, but he was a great speaker. And then he became an umpire, and I was told by one of his fellow umpires how he became one of the best. I mean, he called every big match. Of course, at one time he couldn't call some big matches because he, as an American, if a Connors or McEnroe were in the final, and Everett, you couldn't call that final. But said he did really well and became a chair on the tour because the first year he said 3 words, second year he said 2 words, then the third year he said 1 word. And because you're a really good umpire, getting away from serve and overhead, if you're a really good umpire, people don't even know you're there. But you're orchestrating the match with the score. Teaching tennis, the money is quick. The money is easy. Too many times people just take the money. Many times people teaching mom and dad, they're a glorified hitting partner. But because they can hit, mom and dad think, okay, they can teach. So again, easy money. So here's some thoughts on the overhead. You use your left hand when you set the racket up. You don't point. Just like with Les Stoffen, who had the best serve in the 30s, and I taught tennis with his son at Braden's. Les Stoffen was the model for the sculptor. The sculptor said, no, put your, just like the quarterback positions they used to use in high school, like a senior photo in a high school yearbook. But why do you use your left hand? You use your left hand initially to change your grip. Use your left hand to relax. Your left hand's on the racket, so your right arm is relaxed. You set the most efficient angle, this quarterback position, salute position. If you have your left hand on the racket, you can rotate more than if you separate your arms. So you can have this angular momentum. If you have your left hand on the racket longer in the beginning, you keep it up longer at the end. And then the left hand works like a reactive brake. You decelerate the left side, accelerate the right. So I just gave out like a half dozen points. And that's one of the things with tennis camps is the people that are studying or the people that are teaching should study. It's just too easy to take the money. And what happens from one generation to the next, I've been in this thing long enough, I know you have, Dave, is so many people are just teaching the same. When they're an entry-level coach, if they were taught to scratch and point, shuffle back, that's what they're going to teach because they go with what they remembered. But I would say this for the people who direct camps is our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied, with we had many directors. Actually, I've been communicating a little bit with Dave Fish, retired Dave Fish, for the Harvard tennis coach. Is there's 365 clips, but a tennis camp director could say, okay, we're just going to take 50. Take 50. When you're teaching at a tennis camp, you don't have to get into match analysis. But you should know how to demonstrate. Okay, this is how you demonstrate a basic overhead. This is how you demonstrate a basic serve. And, the young tennis teachers, don't tell me what you think. Tell me what you know. I'm not interested in what you think. Dave, you were part of the tennis tech program in the first year students really didn't have a speaking part. But by the time you were second year, you were forced to teach. Right? But, you certainly, you shouldn't be winging it with teaching any stroke. But we can circle back and get into tennis camps more. I mean, I think that some of the things we haven't talked about, certainly strategy and just themes for tennis camps and how to make it fun. And but I think that the homework that we've done, how we can help people, and anybody who follows our podcast, they should periodically look at our Facebook page, and we'll put up. We're doing it for the ITA, but we'll share it with Joe Public. This clip or this instructional tape. Why don't you just say a few things about that tape, and we'll call it a day, Ivan?
Yeah, it's about an hour long, maybe just over. Instructional supplemental tape going over just the basics of tennis. A lot is focused on mechanics, but we go over the racket, the grips, the court, how to practice, some fitness, warm-up drills, just a lot of really good ideas how to structure practice and how to get better as a tennis player.
That's good. And with Dave, we made a list of 15 sports between his childhood friend Freddie Foreman and Dave, and out of the 15 sports, Freddie was better at 14, but Dave was better at tennis. But Freddie had a better serve. Why did Freddie have a better serve?
I don't think Freddie had a better serve for anybody. Out of those 15 sports, tennis was my 11th best.
Oh, okay. Just get
But yeah, so I had 10 ahead of tennis. And Freddie, I think, barely got me in wrestling, and he was a state champ, and I never wrestled. But no, he had a good serve motion though. He was a talented guy.
No, Freddie.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Freddie got, he looked good in a hurry. What you say, the best looking 4-5 player?
Yeah.
Flashiest looking 4-5 player. How many 4 or 5 players could hit a tweener on their first day? Freddie.
Yeah.
He diving after balls. But that's something we have to promise to our listeners. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Dave, thanks so much for your time again.
You bet.
But we have to get Freddie on this podcast.
Let's do it. Episode 260.
Fast Freddie, 260, 5 years. Then we're going to go, maybe we've been trying to go PG. I go Freddie, we've been trying to go G.
Yeah.
You're editing some curse words, not too many. We'll go PG. Get Freddie on the podcast. All right, listeners, Dave, Ivan, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Listeners, have a great summer. It's summer tennis camp.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Take care. Bye.